We are the descendants of 40 million people.
A nation founded by immigrants
Who left other countries to come here to the United States to build a new life.
A time marked by change.
We will build the wall and Mexico will pay for the wall.
A people grappling with uncertainty.
The people united will never be defeated.
Immigration in America has become one of the most divisive topics in today's political discourse, pitting America's immigrant population of today against those who once descended from immigrants.
This isn't a country of free and open borders and lawlessness. This is a country where you obey the laws, you obey the rules.
It's a reality that has called into question our nation's immigration policies, created debate over the impacts of immigrants in this country, and led to clashes over the future of immigration in America.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for our Immigration in America Town Hall. I'm Tim Boyum. Over the course of the next hour, we're going to talk about immigration in America from many of the perspectives that you just saw in our documentary, but we're going to look at it through the lens of North Carolina. And for that, we have a passionate and thoughtful panel to work through these issues in North Carolina. Let's go ahead and get to it and introduce you to our panel. First, Donnie Harrison, the Wake County Sheriff, first elected back in 2002. He's been in law enforcement his entire career. As of May 10th, marked 50 years in law enforcement. Congratulations, sir. Wake County has taken part in the 287G program as well that gives local officials some power to enforce immigration laws. Steve Rao is the Mayor Pro Tem of Morrisville here in the Triangle. He works in the tech industry and research Triangle Park for Alphanumeric Systems. He's been working on immigration issues from the perspective as an elected official and tech worker. William Gheen is president of ALIPAC, which stands for Americans for Legal Immigration PAC. His group is adamantly against illegal immigration and amnesty of any kind. In our Greensboro newsroom, Sam Page, Rockingham County Sheriff, first elected back in 1998. He has 30 plus years in law enforcement, and just this year, he met with President Trump to talk about border security and immigration issues. In our Charlotte newsroom, Jose Hernandez-Paris, Executive Director of the Latin American Coalition, an immigrants' rights organization. He was born in Colombia and raised in Charlotte. Finally, Diane Stewart, once an undocumented immigrant in this country. In 2001, her family left South Africa, came to the U.S., but had to self-deport. She estimates by the time they are U.S. citizens, it will have been 20 years and will have cost $320,000. She now runs a company called Pathway USA to assist families move to the United States successfully. And our last panelist, you can take part by calling us to ask questions of our panel and talk about this issue as well. That number is 919-882-4040. Again, 919-882-4040. And of course, that discussion happens online as well. And for that, we have Donna Natosi, our senior digital content producer. Donna, if people want to get involved with this online and get in the conversation, how can they do it tonight?
So tonight we want to hear your thoughts and your questions. You can join the conversation on Twitter by using the hashtag ImmigrationNC. And then your comments and your questions could be featured on television.
And if people want to get more information about what we're talking about, our website has quite a bit as well, right?
It sure does. We have facts about immigration specific to North Carolina, as well as an interactive map about the immigrant population in the United States.
All right, Donna, thank you very much. We'll have much more on the social media aspect throughout the night as well. Again, you can call that number 919-882-4040 to get involved with the conversation. If you want to do it online, hashtag ImmigrationNC. Let's get this conversation rolling here and start with sort of first impressions about the documentary that we aired tonight. Sheriff Harrison, what stood out to you?
Well, I didn't see what happens here in Wake County. This was somewhere else. Wake County is entirely different, and I thought that the immigrant population had a little bit more to say than the people that's not involved with the immigration. You know, maybe we should have had a little bit more of both sides.
Steve, your impressions?
Well, it didn't address some of the things I'm going to talk about tonight, which is technology-based and skill-based immigration, and we have a lot of that going on in Wake County and North Carolina. But I think my first impression is I am concerned that there's a lot of people out there afraid, and you know, how we can come together as a country to have a reasonable immigration reform package put forth to the Congress. So I wish it had been, like the sheriff said, a little bit more about what's going on in North Carolina, but it was very informative for me.
And that's what we'll be talking about a little bit more tonight. William, as you watched that, what stood out to you?
The first thing that stood out was it seemed to confuse legal immigration with illegal immigration throughout the film. The other thing is that the voices of those that have been negatively impacted by hyper-legal immigration or illegal immigration were excluded from the film. You didn't see anybody that had been negatively impacted, had been replaced in their employment or lost their home or the other type of things that have happened to people because of immigration-related problems. So it would have been nice to have seen those voices included in the film.
All right, Sheriff Page, your impressions.
I have to agree with Mr. Gheen on that, is that it was a very humanistic side, but it more so told about the side from the illegal immigrant in some of our communities. We're not as big a farming community as some of these other areas, but again, it was a humanistic side, and I know about the hard-working efforts and stuff like this, and the family component. But I would have liked to heard some comments from the persons that came here illegally into the United States, into North Carolina, and they're living, and what their take is on it.
Mr. Hernandez-Paris, I imagine you have a bit of a different view of what you saw tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was an amazing documentary. I thought that it is about humans, it is about people, and it is not about simply numbers. And I think that bringing a face behind the numbers and the statistics and putting behind some of the fears and the one-liners that have dominated the conversation, I think is incredibly important. So I appreciate it to be able to see the reality of immigrants.
Dan, you've been part of a documentary yourself on the struggles that your family has faced. When you watch something like this, does this strike a different chord, do you think, for you than someone else?
Well, having lived it and having been, done it legally and came here to do it properly and have been so abused by the system, I thought the actual film was very good. I thought it was extremely well presented. I think that not only undocumented immigrants are treated badly here, legal immigrants are treated equally badly.
So we're going to get into some of the specific issues here in the segments to come, but I really just want to go around the horn first and get your impressions on what is the biggest issue facing this country when it comes to immigration. Sheriff Harrison?
Well, my thing is, who do I have in Wake County? I can speak for Wake County. And my concern is I've got to protect everybody, regardless whether they're undocumented or documented. My biggest thing is I want to know who I have in this county. And that's the reason we went to 280 SMG program. We had people in our jail that we didn't have a clue who they were. They were giving us different names and so forth. Give you one example. We had one of the people we caught recently give us a false name, but when he went through the 280 SMG program, he was wanted for child molestation and rape and several other things. If we'd have let him back out on the street under the name that he was in, what could have happened? Who would have got the blame for it? Me.
Steve?
Well, I look at it from the perspective of innovation. I mean, in terms of just immigrants who have come to America, 40% of the Fortune 500 were founded by immigrants, from Google to Yahoo to Sun Microsystems, Nordstrom's, you can go on. And I think that many immigrants, President Trump wouldn't be able to tweet on his iPhone if a refugee from Syria didn't come and invent the iPhone. So, I mean, I think at the end of the day, this is creating a lot of jobs, and one concern that I have is that particularly skilled visa immigrants, it's a different conversation, are here in America, many of them are Indian American in Wake County, and if they can't become citizens and innovate, are they going to go somewhere else and do that? That's one, and then the IT shortage, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah, well, and I have a question for you, William, in a minute, but first, Joseph from Kernersville is on the phone. Joseph, do you have a question or comment tonight?
Yes, sir, I do. Thank you so much for your time. One thing that I guess I'm having a hard time understanding, and I think people seem to forget, what part of illegal is people forgetting about? If someone else breaks a law, what have you, we get fined or have to go to jail or things of that nature. Thankfully, I've never been a big thing like that. But it's about like the young lady there just a moment ago, the pathway to America, I think it is, what she said, how she was treated trying to become legal into the country. I don't know anything about that. Naturally, she does, but unfortunately, I don't. But I guess I just have an issue with illegals coming in, and either they're trying to become legal or they're not trying to become legal, but it doesn't seem like anything's being done. So I just had a question. Somebody could help me understand that. And thank you all so much for your time. Y'all have a good evening.
Joseph, thank you so much for calling in. Appreciate it. William, I want to come to you for a second, but Diane, he addressed you. How do you respond to that?
Well, I think that if people were able to come here legally and there was a line for them to stand in, that would be understandable. The problem is that there is no line for them to stand in. If there was a means that they could do it legally, they would. I guarantee you that they would. But unfortunately, the needs of this country far exceed what the legislation actually outlines and allows people to do. That's the problem. The second problem is that it's never been enforced. You've got all these laws on your books, but you've never enforced them. I had been shouting at Sue Myrick, who was my representative here years ago, and outlining exactly where the loopholes are and where the problems are. But nobody to this day has done anything.
All right.
There was, for example, no record of anybody leaving the country. You could get in here on a legal visa, but there was no system where they would actually control who was going, who was leaving.
All right, William, we're coming to you after the break. Time flies when we have these discussions. We got to take one break here. Remember again, 919-882-4040 is the number to call in. #ImmigrationNC. We'll talk about education, law enforcement, and many other issues when we return to Immigration in America Town Hall.
There is definitely a labor shortage. That is what I see as being the major challenge right now.
Good evening and welcome back to our Immigration in America Town Hall. I'm Tim Boyum. Thank you so much for joining us. We want to get right back to the phone lines. Got a lot of people calling in tonight talking about immigration. James in Greensboro is on the line. And James, you say you lost a job to an immigrant.
Yes, I did.
Tell us your story, sir.
I've built houses for 27 years, and I had to finally give it up because the Mexicans come in and started underbidding me as much as $3 to $4 a square foot for building a house, and it just run me out of business as well as a lot of other people. And I'm not racist or anything like that, there's a lot of good Mexican people in this country, but the illegal immigration has got to a point where it's absolutely ridiculous. They're filling our schools up. Most of them, they don't even know who they are. They don't know how to speak no English. Some of them are 15, 16 years old, setting aside 8, 9, 10-year-old kids. They're taking our health care away from us. My wife is 52 years old. She works and makes $9.25 an hour. She can't even get health insurance. But these Mexicans, they can get all the health insurance they want, the illegal ones even.
All right,
I just don't think it's fair.
James, thank you very much for your phone call. William, I know this is an issue you have a lot, but there are a lot of experts out there that say these illegal immigrants are not taking Americans' jobs. So how are we supposed to make sense of this?
Well, they are, and Diane hit up, first of all, Diane, thank you for legally immigrating and respecting our laws coming to the country. And both your caller from Greensboro and Kernersville are all telling the same story. If you're an American citizen or someone playing by the rules and trying to do things the right way, then you're confronted at every turn by difficulties, expenses, hardships, injustices. But if you're an illegal immigrant, and as soon as you cross the border, your health care, your cell phone, your education, your transportation, your clothing, everything is covered by the United States taxpayer, and the way it's paved. And this film that we just saw actually glorified crossing the border illegally. They had a segment with a field of stars and happy music playing and a mom holding a child's hand as they cross the border. It's the large companies that make this product are saying, hey, this is something that we want to glorify, but if you're an American citizen out there trying to pay your bills, work your job, do the things the right way, you're being penalized at every turn.
Jose, I want to give you a chance to respond to that.
Yeah, that's absolutely untrue. That's just the use of fear and misinformation to turn people against undocumented immigrants and immigrants overall and give it a negative connotation. And the immigrant word has become a negative connotation where this country was made of immigrants. This country was founded by immigrants and it has always benefited from that. this country is what it is because of the immigrants. So, and to say that they are taking away jobs, and to say that they're using health care, and that they don't even qualify for all those government benefits.
Exactly.
They're actually contributing to the system billions and billions of dollars that are not even used by them because they don't qualify for that money that is going into the treasury of the United States to be used for programs and services. The undocumented population, the economic impact of them is over $1.6 billion to the American economy in two ways. One of them is creating additional jobs and revenue for the rest of the community, but secondly, also creating jobs and opportunities for other individuals. So I think when people look at the statistics and look at the reality, it's just false information.
That's not false. The
yeah,
reality is that over $100 billion worth of federal tax resources are drained by illegal immigrants each year, according to the Federation of Americans for Immigration Reform. And you just heard from a gentleman in Greensboro, North Carolina, who lost his job. For 10 years now, my phone is rung off the hook with people who had landscaping companies, roofing companies, construction companies, jobs that used to pay decent living wages for American citizens that have been put out of business because they cannot compete with companies that are unscrupulous with their hiring practices and that are violating our immigration laws to make more money. What would you say to the man from Greensboro that called that lost his construction business because he can't compete with illegal labor?
Diane, I know you wanted to chime in, so go ahead and answer that.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'd like to just underline the fact that Jose said that undocumented immigrants do not qualify for anything, and that is absolutely true. As a legal immigrant, I struggled to get health care for the first 10 years that I lived in the United States. So undocumented immigrants are definitely not getting health care. What they are getting is support for their US-born children. In the United States, you have in your constitution, any child or any baby that's born on this soil automatically gets US citizenship. You are the only country in the world that allows that. You cannot have it both ways. If a child is born here and the parents are unable to provide for it, they qualify for benefits. So unless you change your constitution, you're going to have to put up with the fact that children that are born in America are going to get benefits through their undocumented immigrant parents. So that's the first point that I want to make.
Go ahead.
The second thing is that I'm sorry, I've lost my train of thought now.
That's okay. We'll come back to you. Save it for the next one. Go ahead, Sharon.
People losing jobs. People losing jobs is what I wanted to say. The poor man that lost his job in Greensboro, I'm in Greensboro, I really feel for him because I think that is most unfortunate. But if the undocumented immigrant could have come here legally, he would have had to play by the rules. Because he came here in an undocumented capacity, nobody knows where he is, who he is, and what business he's doing. And so if you were going to enforce your laws and you were going to provide a way for him to come here if you needed his skill, like the way Canada and Australia and England and New Zealand get immigrants, they ask for immigrants that they need. They don't just take anybody from anywhere. So if you had a system that actually worked, then you wouldn't have Americans be negatively impacted by it.
I think most of the panel would agree with that. It's a matter of how we get there. Real quick,
that's what I was going to say. That's where we're lacking, is people's coming in here. A lot of people that I talk to in these forums that I go to, they don't want to be legal, and I don't understand that part of it. We wouldn't have a problem. I wouldn't have a problem. You know, we have good people in this country. I will say most of our dope is coming from Mexico. But if they're coming here, and I agree with what she said, if there was a better system that we could get people here, but also we do have a system for the farmers, and a lot of them don't even want to follow that. So that's where my problem comes in. I'm happy if I know who I've got in my county. I'm gonna protect them either way. But she's exactly right. There's not a good system, and it should be a good system. But then on the other hand, these people that don't want to get their citizenship, what do you do with those?
Well, I think the point is that we got a diverse group of immigrants coming here, and I'm sure, Steve, that's the point you want to make.
Yeah, it's a very diverse group. I mean, I think just the point, is that number one, I'm a member of the New American Economy, which is a national bipartisan group started by Mayor Bloomberg and 50 metro mayors, and they have a lot of studies of how immigrants coming in support agriculture. Governor Cooper would tell you and his Commerce Secretary that agriculture is one of the largest growing states in North Carolina, and we will be severely hurt if we just say illegal immigrants can't come in. Now, do we want people to break the law or not come in? We want them to help make America better. Second point I'll make is that we often forget that people came to America as a sense of hope. They left religious persecution. They wanted to come to a country where they could be free. So I don't agree that just by saying all illegal immigrants out, that we're going to make America better or stronger. We've got to create new jobs and new opportunity for our citizens.
Just real quick.
On the other hand, if we don't know who we're getting, we're going to have another 9/11. That's coming, so you can count on it.
Yeah, I don't believe that any immigrant comes to the United States wanting to be an illegal. I absolutely refuse to accept that. People come here because they want to work hard, they aspire to the American dream just as I did for my children and my family. So I don't buy the fact that they want to stay undocumented. If they had a line to stand into, if they had a means to do it, I guarantee you they would.
Well, I can tell you in the last 2 years, the number of forums that I've been to, which has been many, I have asked those questions over and over, why do you not? And they just say, we don't want to go through the process.
Sheriff Page,
because it's so, yeah, exactly, because it is so absolutely ridiculously inhumane. I've done it. I self-deported.
Sheriff Page, you've met with President Trump on many of these issues.
Well, I did. We talked about the support of law enforcement, local, state, and federal, but that also intertwines with Homeland Security. But, you know, the question I would ask this young lady was, when was the last time you've talked to your senator, to your congressman? That's another starting point also, because it seems like I've been working on this program for about 7 years, and it seems like it's just been a kick the can down the road situation. It's an election cycle after election cycle after election cycle, and nothing gets done. And so, you know, if our system needs to be tweaked, then it starts with our legislature. It starts with you, and it starts with our legislature to encourage them to have the will and desire to fix our system if it needs to be fixed or where it needs to be fixed. Don't you agree?
Sheriff, they don't want to fix it. Well, why do they want to fix it? We want to go to Harris Teeter and buy wonderful, fresh, beautiful strawberries, for $3.99. We don't want to pay $6.99 for it, because that's what we have to pay if we have an American picking those strawberries. They have no desire in Washington to fix this problem on either side.
William, go ahead.
In Washington, yes. In Washington, yes.
They
like, but the American people are trying to speak out loud and clear on this. They want our existing immigration laws enforced. And the current immigration law for an illegal immigrant in the United States is returned to the nation of which they are citizens of, and that is justice. If we apply current American justice to illegal immigrants, they are to return to the nations of which they are citizens, and if they have minor children, be they illegal as well or their American-born children, the law states they are to return with their parents, and that's the law. That's what Americans support. We can't quite explain what non-constitutional power it is in Washington, D.C. that has deprived every American of a functioning republic and existing laws. I have, as an American, have every right to expect all of my laws to be enforced to my satisfaction, and until that's fixed, everybody wants to fix the system for the illegals or fix the system for the refugees. Donald Trump made a very important point. Let's fix the system so that the American citizens are happy with it, because we built it, we funded it, we fought the wars to protect it, and we're the ones that are supposed to be represented.
I need to go something else in a minute, but Jose, I saw you shaking your head quite a bit there.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, for you, who is an American? Someone that looks like you? I'm an American, and I have a voice. And there are millions of people that look like me that have a voice too, who are Americans, who also want the system fixed, who do not believe that people should have to migrate illegally. We forget our history. We forget what these people are here. We don't acknowledge the fact that we have civil wars in Central America fighting against communism. You forget about the Iran-Contra deal and the reason that we have all these refugees coming over here. We forget the Middle East and what happened in the Middle East with Syria and what happened with Iraq and why people are having to come to this country, and our responsibility with that. And we are a country of laws. We are a country of justice. We are a country that has benefited for migrants for hundreds of years. And now we want to categorize what an American looks like.
Well, I didn't say anything.
And I hate to disagree with you that many millions of Americans that look like me want the system to be fixed and want and agree with the system of law. We're not against the law. We're not against justice. We're acknowledging the fact that we have a system that doesn't work for anybody, but you refuse to fix the system by putting barriers and by creating fears that put barriers to allow people to migrate here illegally, and to recognize the people that have made this country what it is.
Americans of every race and every gender deserve to be able to have our laws enforced and our Constitution enforced, and they should be able to get on television or stand up at some forum without someone like you trying to call them a racist. You're trying to put fear in people because you're trying to...
I didn't use the word racist.
You said, what is an American? Someone that looks like you? That's exactly what you're doing.
Because that's what you said. That's exactly what you said.
It's an ad hominem attack, and you should have gotten, you're the little boys and little girls that cried racist way too often. You should have learned from Donald Trump's electoral victory that people aren't buying that because you're applying the term to people that don't deserve it, and it's really,
who won the popular
defamatory.
vote?
Okay,
right?
It's very defamatory.
So, who won the popular vote, right?
Don't call people racist just because they don't agree with it, sir.
I didn't say that. You said
what? Oh, well, people that look like you. Are you an American? Do you look like an American?
Well, that's what you're saying, that the American people have a right to voice.
That's what you're saying.
And so who is the American people?
The American people are the people who were born here, who have paid the taxes, who have U.S. citizenship, who are tied to the debts of this nation.
I wasn't born here, but I'm a U.S. citizen.
Right. Then you have
I'm an American too, and have every right that you do.
And my
I have absolutely every right like you do.
My in-laws weren't born here, and they were veterans in the United States Air Force as immigrants from India, and I hope they're watching tonight.
My brother is a veteran of Iraq, and he's an immigrant.
All right. Good discussion. We'll continue this after this break. We will talk about more of the law enforcement issues, the government issues that we face in this country when Immigration in America, our town hall continues. Remember, 919-882-4040, hashtag ImmigrationNC. We'll be right back.
It's not fair because I feel like the bosses can take advantage of the workers because knowing the fact that they're illegal, they can mistreat you and sometimes maybe not pay you what they're supposed to pay you.
Welcome back to our Immigration in America Town Hall. I'm Tim Boyum. Thank you so much for joining us. We are getting a lot of reaction on social media and on the phone lines as well. Let's go to our senior digital content producer, Donna Natosi. What are we hearing?
So we got a tweet from Maggie Smetana saying maybe strawberry farmers who cannot get workers to offer higher wages.
All right, and they're referring to that the piece from Florida within the documentary. Some of the wage issues are something we've heard as well. Let's go back to the phone line. Brian is a soldier from Fort Bragg. Brian, what's your comment or question tonight?
Yes, hi. How are you guys doing this evening?
We're good, thank you.
Outstanding. My wife is actually an immigrant. She's from Latvia, and we've been going through the immigration process for quite some time now. She came over on a fiancé visa, and she's actually just now to the point where she did her biometrics last week. So my question is actually a two-part question. The question that she wants me to ask is, for her, is there's all this support for illegal immigrants, but along our journey, we have not seen, heard of, or found any kind of support for us for trying to do the immigration process the right way. And the question for myself is that in a lot of the news documents and even in the documentary tonight, you see a lot of the assistance for illegal immigrants. Essentially, I feel like they are aiding, abetting, or / harboring illegal immigrants, which is basically a crime in itself. I was wondering if anybody could provide any comments on that.
Brian, thank you so much for the phone call. Let's tackle that first question first. I can't think of anyone better on this panel than Diane to address that question. Since you've been through this yourself, what can you tell them?
Well, yes, I think there is very limited support for legal immigrants. There's nobody to speak to. At least at the IRS, I can call up and ask somebody a question, and I can speak to a real life person. If you don't have a very expensive attorney, there's no way that you can actually get any answers or any feedback back from the USCIS. So I feel for you. People that go through the legal system have a terribly hard time. Not to mention the insecurity and the pain and just just not knowing what's going to happen to them, while they're embroiled in the system.
So what should they do?
I think as the sheriff said earlier, we actually really need to lobby our representative and our congressman, because they are the only ones who can fix this.
Sheriff Page, the question about aiding and abetting when they're trying to do it what they said the right way while they see others that appear to be aiding and abetting illegal immigration. What do you say to him about that?
Well, if I understand this right, if you're aiding and abetting someone that's involved in illegal activity, even immigration process, then you could find yourself in a lot of trouble there. I'm not an immigration agent, and I do not specialize in those areas. I do have agents that I can call for assistance if I need it. But the primary responsibility of enforcing that enforcing any of those violations, for any immigration violations, would be our federal immigration agents. And I want to say one thing. A lot of time there's misinformation that's getting put out there about the local law enforcement, and as Sheriff Harrison alluded to, he participates in the 287G process in his jail. I participate in the old secure communities process in my jails. If someone violates the law in our counties, and regardless whether they're illegal or not, they can be arrested and talk to the magistrate to set conditions of release. If the person is committed to the jail and it's determined that person is not native born, then it interfaces with our system. But there's a lot of misinformation putting out there that local law enforcement is doing straight up immigration work, and they're not. Now, do we share our information? Absolutely. Do we provide information when requested? Yes, we do. Accordance with 8 of the U.S. Code of 1373.
Good.
Which deals with cooperation. Yes.
As president of an organization called Americans for Legal Immigration, Brian's question, there is an answer, because we get a lot of calls like this quite often. Brian sounds like he's a U.S. citizen. I think he said it was in Fort Bragg. I think
soldier at Fort Bragg.
I think your congressman is either Congressman Walter Jones. What you need to do if you're having trouble with the legal immigration process is the American citizen involved with it, or get an American citizen to pick up the phone and call their member of Congress or the U.S. Senate. And the key word you want to use is a constituent service file. If an American citizen calls Congressman Jones's office and says, "Hi, my name's Brian, I'd like for you to open up a constituent service file for me and my wife who is trying to legally immigrate," at that point, your local representative office, and results may vary. You know, there are different offices around the country that do a better job with constituent services than others. Walter Jones has wonderful constituent services. And if you mention the word constituent service, immigration, they will get onto the phone to USCIS with you and start to work with you and provide. We've seen a lot of cases resolve a lot faster by using your local representation.
All right, there you go. Steve.
I just want to back up the sheriff on what he said. There is misinformation going out there. And I want, Chief Andrews, our police chief in Morrisville, has been holding community conversations. We have a high level of Asian population in Morrisville and Western Wake County. And if someone's driving and they get caught for speeding, there's misinformation out there that it's an immigration stop. And I just want for everyone listening to the show that for Wake County at least, I can speak from our county and probably the Sheriff's County, that that's not the case. If you're stopped because you violated the law. And if you find something out, you may pass it on, but
Go, Jose.
Exactly, sir.
And I just wanted to,
can I say one?
Highlight and talk about what the lady mentioned about the lack of support for legal immigration, and part of that is that the problem is not the support. The problem is the system, and that's what we keep trying to say. But when you don't have a system that allows people to migrate legally, and when they do try to go through the system, and the system is so complex that it doesn't allow people to, and the people that we need, the labor that we need, the individuals that we need, when you don't have a system that allows for that to take place, then the problem is the system, not the people. And so, for example, here in Charlotte, we have an immigration attorney that allows individuals to go through the process and using the law in order for them to receive a legal permanent status. The same thing, we have multiple agencies that do the same thing. So it's not, I would recommend that the lady looks for support through some of the nonprofit agencies like ours, who actually support and work within the U.S. law to try to help people be here documented and participate and continue to participate in the system of democracy that we have that is based on equality and justice for all. But right now, unfortunately, there's not equality and justice for all. There's misinformation about the system, and and I think if we came together and we had I think we all have to compromise somewhere, and I think if we talk to each other and we were able to force the federal government to come up with a fair solution, I think we won't be having the challenges that we have right now.
Sheriff Page, I know you want to jump in.
Well, I just want to make a comment, is that just like the gentleman from Fort Bragg said, is we have to have reasonable suspicion to stop a vehicle. Once we stop the vehicle, if there is a criminal violation, then we can take appropriate action. If that person per se does not have identification, whether he be a U.S. citizen or not, that could be a trip to the magistrate to determine the conditions of release and also identification process.
Diane, real quick.
Yeah, I'd like to just raise a subject that nobody's spoken about this evening. What are we going to do with the 11.5 million people that are here right now? That is my question to the panel.
There's a really big question. William, the probably question goes right to you. You want these folks to go back to their native countries. How do you do that?
The answer is so simple.
Then why has it not been solved?
Because big business doesn't want it, the Soros groups don't want it, the illegals don't want it. The answer is adequately enforce our existing immigration laws. 10 to 20 million illegals are here because an illegal immigrant currently in the United States has less than 1% of 1% chance of ever being deported. And if they are deported, they walk back in 5 or 6 times over our porous borders. And it's a terrible joke, and the victims of the joke are the American public that suffers because of it. If we start enforcing our immigration laws, if the president came out and said, hey, get your affairs in order in 6 months, we're going to really, start enforcing these laws, we're going to crack down on employers that hire illegal immigrants, we're going to secure that border. If we find you committing a broader criminal act as an illegal immigrant, you're out of here, 1 strike, you're gone. Most illegals, or a large portion, would leave on their own accord. We learned in 1958 under the Eisenhower administration, for every illegal immigrant deported under a type of enforcement effort, another 2 to 3 will self-deport and return to the nation that they're a citizen of.
I do. You mentioned that a lot don't get deported. I do want to talk with someone who has experienced this, at least a relative. Rose from Cary is on the phone. Rose, you said your husband has been deported?
Yes, 4 years ago. I'm an American. I grew up in New Jersey and New York. I've been in Cary for 20 years, and 15 years ago I met Martine, and we fell in love, and we got married, and I got a lawyer so that we could get married with the right paperwork, and I got him a tax ID to work with. So we got by for 12 years like this, and then he was driving home one night on a scooter, and his back light was out, and the officer asked him about his immigration status, and that's so 287G got him, and I couldn't get him back.
You see, that is a horrific, inhumane story.
Rose,
this is not the America that I came to. This is not what we should be doing to our citizens.
I'm
Go ahead,
not going to
Sheriff.
say she's wrong, but we don't ask immigration status. I can't speak for everybody. I don't know of any law enforcement officer in this county that does. Do they? Maybe so. We find out when they come to jail. If they're arrested, if he had no ID,
that's right.
if he had no ID, or if we thought he was lying, yes, he would come to us. Yes, he would go through the process of being asked questions. And then he would come to the 287G program, which we have. That is, we have no officers that have power of arrest in the 287G program. They're all detention officers. We have ICE agents on hand. When they go through the process, if they find out he is illegal, we turn them over to ICE. It's ICE's call, not our call. But as far as saying, stopping somebody and saying, "Are you illegal or undocumented?" that's hard for me to believe. I'm not going to say it didn't. But I've been in this county 50 years. I'm not saying it couldn't happen somewhere else, but I've been in this county 50 years, and I don't see it.
Jose, do you believe it's possible?
Oh, absolutely. We get 37%, and this is statistics that you can look up in Google, right now. Just look it up. Knowledge is powerful. And 37% of the individuals that have been arrested since the last presidential election have no criminal records. So how are these people being targeted? They
were arrested because they had probable cause to stop them. That's the reason. Just like he had a tail light out.
Jose, are you saying they target? Are you saying law enforcement targets?
There's racial profiling.
No, it's not racial profiling.
Just because someone has an accent like I do doesn't mean that I'm an illegal alien.
Stop somebody. It's not racial profiling.
The penalty.
You can say that all you want to.
The penalty
for it's happened.
The penalty for illegally immigrating.
I'm not going to say it hasn't happened. I just said here in Wake County, I don't see that.
The penalty for illegally immigrating to Mexico is deportation. The penalty for illegally immigrating to Brazil is deportation. The penalty for illegally immigrating to China, Russia is deportation, as it is in the United States. If you can't do the time, don't do the crime. I think we
are the United States of America. We're not China or Brazil or France.
Every
we
nation
have a country that was based on immigrants, that was founded by immigrants, and now you're trying to be selective of who qualifies and doesn't qualify under a system that changed in order to exclude people.
I don't mean to cut y'all off, but we got to take one last break. This time flies. We could go on for hours and hours about this. We got to take one last break. When we come back, we'll have some final thoughts about immigration in America with our town hall. Be right back.
are things happening that I don't want to see. I don't want to even talk about it. There's a feeling of not being welcome.
Good evening and welcome back to Immigration in America Town Hall. I'm Tim Boyum. Thank you so much for joining us. Time is flying tonight. I have lists and lists of questions, and we only got to some of it because of a great discussion, so we thank you so much. Donna Natosi, our senior digital content producer, is joining us again with some of the more reaction from digital media. Hey, Donna.
Hey, we've been getting a lot of your questions and comments on Twitter, so thank you for that. We got one from Castle Exterminator saying, as a local business, we need legal immigration policies that keeps up with the times. What do you think about that?
All right, we'll hear what our folks have to say about that in a minute. But first, let's go to Danny in Siloam, who has a question for our panel. Hey, Danny.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, thank you for calling in.
You're welcome. My question is, well, it's kind of more than one question, but what is it about the word illegal that many of the liberals and a lot of even the liberal media and even the title of this show, Immigration in America? I don't think anyone has any problem with immigration in America. What people have a problem is illegal immigration in America. And trying to discuss illegal and legal with many, they just don't get it. Even Jose on the show there, he just don't get it. We're either a nation of laws or we're not a nation of laws. Even the little snippet that they had just a moment ago on your channel, it said 12.1% of entrepreneurs were born in a foreign country. What in the world does that have to do with anything? That's great. We're talking about legal or illegal. Illegal immigration is a drain on our health care system. It's a drain on our school system. It's a drain on, it's taking away American jobs. My question is, what is it about the word illegal that many people can't understand?
Danny, thank you so much for your call. Diane, were you wanting to chime in on that?
Yes, I think that is a very important piece. I think America is a nation of laws. However, when the law is not serving its purpose or it is not a good law, as we saw in the civil rights movement, those laws were laws, but they were bad laws, and so they were repealed because they were inhumane. I'm going to propose that the current immigration system is inhumane, and so it needs to be repealed and completely restarted and thoughtfully put together for the benefit of Americans and the country.
All right, thank you very much. We only have a few minutes left, so I kind of want to go around and do some final thoughts on just our conversation tonight and immigration in general. We'll go one by one. Sheriff Harrison, your final thoughts tonight.
Well, I think here in Wake County, I can't speak for the state, but I think in Wake County we have a good program here with the 287G. It protects the people, not only the citizens of this county that's been here forever, but the people that's in here. We have a lot of advocacy groups that put fear into our immigration population. They want them to spend money, to give them money to try to protect them, and I don't believe in that. And I want the people to know that they can call me anytime they want to. We've got a good communication here in Wake County. And you're talking about leaving just in Wake County. We processed over 22,000 since 2008. About 9,000 of them went through proceedings with ICE. Out of that 9,000, almost 1,000 have returned. So there is a problem at the border. There is a problem that we need to address, but I want everybody to know the undocumented and documented are going to be protected in this county, but there should be a better process.
Sheriff, thank you. Steve?
Well, my perspective is I'm the son of immigrants. My parents came here in 1969, and one of my closest friends who came with my dad always tells a story of when he saw the Statue of Liberty, how emotional it was for him because he knew that he could come to a country and contribute so much and bring culture and technology and innovation. He became a physician as well. So I think that immigration is the story of this country. I think the thing about it is there's different perspectives you've heard tonight. And I think what we have to do as a nation is come together and figure out what is the path to reform. The second point I'll make as I close out is, the technology sector we didn't talk a lot about. And there's the skilled visa program. And there's a lot of people, some of it has to be reformed, but 32% of all PhDs in this state from a land-grant university are foreign-born. 61% of PhDs, this is all new American economy data. And there's 50,000 Indian Americans. Many of them think I'm their congressman because they've been here 10 years. They call me to get their visa expedited. I think I'd say let's accelerate the path to citizenship for those who are here legally so they don't leave and start a company somewhere else.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We got less than 2 minutes here, so a little bit quicker. William, go ahead.
The existing borders and immigration laws in the United States are fair. They're just. They are the product of our elections, the deliberations of our Congress. They have been signed into laws by presidents. There's nothing more important than having them enforced. And that is what the American public wants, because those laws are designed to protect American jobs, wages, communities, and even American lives.
All right, Jose, thank you very much. Lastly, Jose, real brief, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of things that have been repeated over and over, like, for example, draining the system using healthcare that are not based on the reality, on the statistics. And I hope people who believe in justice, people who believe in the reality of immigrants, in the reality of America, look up the statistics and realize that immigrants create jobs. They don't take away jobs. That a 287G program does not make us safer. It actually is diverting resources that could be used to target real criminals into targeting families of immigrant families. So all they're doing is working hard for this country to make the country what it is today.
Jose, thank you so much. Diane, Sheriff Page, I'm sorry we've run out of time, but thank you so much for your thoughts tonight. Thanks to our entire panel. Thanks to those of you online, and thanks for the phone calls as well. Thank you so much for watching our documentary as well as this town hall. We leave you tonight with some final images and sounds from Immigration in America.
It's not just about arresting the person, it is about creating fear in the community and scaring and really terrorizing these communities.
Because of the climate and the pulse of the community and the fear that exists, I did send a directive out. We are not doing checkpoints.
The fear in our community, the fear in our kids. For me, the fear as a business owner is still there. Nothing has changed.
We cannot grow and succeed if our lives are being broken. I don't believe you know what it's like to wake up for school and feel unfocused because fear is eating up your insides.
They're saying that we're involved in roundups, we're involved in enforcement outside of our facilities. Absolutely not. We have to know who's coming in our facilities, who's in our community. They may be on the terrorist watch list.
There are people that are living in fear of losing their homes, their families, everything that they've worked for.
This is unconstitutional, what they're trying to do here, and not just the undocumented community here, but I know everybody that believes in justice and freedom and, the American way of life. They're not going to let this happen.
We have got to stand for the liberty within our boundaries. Boundaries are a good thing.
For all those that don't know, we pay taxes too.
People look to America as a salvation, as a place they can feel safe. Give them that chance. Don't close the door in their face.
We want to preserve this country so it continues to be a beacon of hope and freedom and liberty so people can come here.